This is your man C Good, and I'm an avid listener of the What's Been Better podcast, hosted by Sylvia Johnson and Miss Lori. Due to explicit language, discretion is advised. So to all the beautiful listeners that have sensitive ears, in the words of Sly herself, excuse me, baby. Please enjoy.
This is episode 16 of What's Been Better. This week, we're talking about raising children, being raised, raising our parents, or even raising our significant others. We're constantly helping others and they're helping us. We all influence each other in some form or fashion. Okay. Thank you to everyone who has lent their voices to the language disclosures. We appreciate all of them.
Yes, we do.
All righty. Well, let's get this thing started.
Yes, ma'am. Let's do it. So, Miss Sylvia, what's been better?
Well, I am coming to you from the Valley of the Sun, my hometown. I came to town to check on my mom, and she's doing good. So I'm doing good. I always love coming here. I didn't before.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have like a sense of peace about this place. Mm-hmm. And I see why she stayed, because the weather.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I love my old neighborhood. I love the people. You know, yes, there are parts and places just like everywhere else, but yeah. So I'm feeling good, feeling warm, because it is a straight up 100 degrees here.
Wow.
But yeah, that's what's been better. That's flew awesome. By myself. That's another thing. Okay. I'm going to disclose something.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know, for as much as I travel, for as much as I used to go by the moniker of Fly Around the World, I'm terrified of flying.
Interesting.
Very, very scared of flying. And I flew by myself this time. 2 flights.
How did you do it?
I did okay.
How did you do it?
The first flight, I was like, oh boy. The second flight, I was cool. I was okay. I think, I'm still trying to get over people not wearing masks. Mm-hmm. But like we talked about, I just had to make peace with it and believe that my mask works.
So. Exactly. Oh my goodness. I have so many questions. It just goes there. I'm curious to know, in spite of the fear, you jumped your ass on a plane, 2 of them. How did you do it?
I set my intentions. Be proud of me, Lori. Be proud of me.
Girl, I am.
Legitimately, I was standing in the garden. I was, prepping everything and shout out to my husband, my God, for getting up every morning, and he is taking care of the garden and coming home from work.
Look at that.
I appreciate him. I told y'all, I won the best husband ever lottery. I did, for real.
I love it.
So I was standing in the garden by myself, and I said, you know what? I need to try this whole setting my intention things. And I said, I have this intention, that intention, and that intention. And I said, regardless of what happens, I'm okay. And I took my ass to the airport, and I got my TSA pre-check stuff settled, because that was making me frazzled, and got my ass on the plane.
Tell me what difference that made to be able to set intentions and say to yourself, no matter what happens,
There was no room for me to worry.
Look at that.
Because I was like kind of filling my mind with other shit I had to do instead of worrying about stuff. Yes. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this instead. And this trip is going to be this way instead. And I'm asking for traveling grace. And just like a sense of peace kind of washed over. And because I didn't have all this worry, like wandering around in my head, I had space to think about, okay, when I get there, I need to do this. I need to meet my mom wherever, because we weren't on the same flight, but we were in the airport around the same time. So I was like, I need to meet her. I need to make sure that my bag is okay. All those things. So it just made more room in my mind. And I think also because I've been reading the Reforming Your Inner Mean Girl and coming to terms with like, oh shit, these are the things that trigger the mean girls. So it was like things kind of like Pinocchio on it with all of his strings. My strings have been cut lately.
Right.
And I see the last couple of strings and I'm like, oh shit. Once those are cut, that's it.
Interesting. What is it though? What's going to happen?
I might be insufferable because I'm not going to give a fuck about anything or anybody besides having peace in my life and having freedom.
Yes. And tell me what difference that would make for you.
I think I know in my heart I'm going to do a lot more things because those last few strings are holding me back. And those last few strings they're not going to be easy to cut because the strings are kind of thick.
Well, we might not know. I mean, I'm
true.
just going to say,
this is true.
The more knowledge you have,
it
might be easier, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of leave room for that,
the
possibilities.
Okay, let me say this. They look thick. They could be hollow for all I know, but they look thick.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, I think too, in listening to episode 13 again about having a reality check and not everything is as it seems. I think there's a possibility, that the strings, they look thick, but they might not be made of anything. They might be hollow. They, they could just wither if I touch them.
Right.
But they've had such a grip on me for so long. And I was trying to make this connection last night when I was talking to my husband about these strings. I was thinking that also these strings are probably the reason why I have so many different kind of mean girl archetypes.
Interesting.
I was saying to him that I think I might only have a significant few that I have brought upon myself, but because these strings are outside things, if they are gone, so goes those mean girls as well.
Exactly.
Because they won't even be activated anymore because those strings won't be there.
Right. They'll just disappear. They'll just disappear. They'll just cease to exist.
And I'm excited about it. I'm excited.
That's
like
beautiful.
I've just been a little bit more excited each day as I figure out more. And I've been more excited about this show and the people that it's reaching and the people who are interacting. And so, yeah, I feel more grateful also.
That's beautiful. And I'm a circle back around to you setting an intention, because notice what happened when you did set an intention.
Yeah.
Right.
I couldn't waver from it. That shit was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it became so because our intentions, just like sometimes we don't necessarily set an intention, which is still setting an intention, like to worry about a thing. So we plan to do that in our mind from a habit. And so now as you set an intention, you're purposeful about what you desire, and that intention becomes so. And so now you're starting to speak things into existence and they become true. And you start to live a life that's purposeful instead of living a life just out of a habit of doing a thing and you keep getting the same result. And your results are changing.
Living to be seen by certain people who never wanted to see in the first place. We were in a restaurant. Okay, first of all, I know I'm making leaps and bounds. We ate at a restaurant the other day, my husband and I. It was outside. We were away from everybody. But I have not eaten in a restaurant in a long time.
Okay.
Years. So there was a little girl and she kept turning flips and dancing and saying like, Mom, look at me, watch. And I was saying to him last night, this is me with the strings.
Mm-hmm.
My strings are me as that little girl who wants to be seen by very particular people.
Mm-hmm.
And those people have said multiple times that like they're just not interested.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to believe them.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to make peace with that. And I need to stop putting
Yes.
in so much energy to do anything that I don't want to do
Mm-hmm.
that I think would make those people see me.
Mm.
So this is
Right.
why I'm like, once these strings are cut,
Mm-hmm.
I might be insufferable because I'm
Maybe.
gonna just do whatever the fuck I feel like doing.
And that's okay, because this is the other thing. Sometimes we make a meaning out of when they say they're not interested, as though that not interested is a bad thing.
Right.
It might not necessarily be a bad thing because it's their choice. They don't have to choose to pay attention. And that could be dealing with something else that they're dealing with. Meanwhile, it doesn't take away from you being excited about what you do.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the thing that maybe brings you joy. And so if it brings you joy, continue on, honey. You do your back flips or front flips or cartwheels and enjoy yourself.
Right.
Because you're entertaining yourself.
Okay. So I'm learning how to do that also.
Lovely.
It's to be by myself and be okay with it and to like myself and to like, it's a quote from Maya Angelou. Success means that you like yourself, you like what you're doing, and you like how you do it.
Right.
If I
say
could
that
just
one more time.
Success is that you like yourself, you like what you do, and you like how you do it.
Oh my goodness. I need that. And I didn't realize that Maya Angelou said that. And now I'm going to grab what she said because I think it's beautiful. I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you that again at some point.
I'm probably just going to make a post out of it. I already know myself. I will probably do it. So that way it's in perpetuity.
Okay,
but
cool.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm working towards. And I think once I get to that point, then I think figuring out what my purpose is will come easier. And I will already be ready for how to live in that purpose.
Nice.
So, okay, that's enough about me. What's been better for you?
Well, let's see. A lot of things have been better. My attitude has been better about my children because they've been kind of on my mind lately, and a lot of peace as it relates to them, to, as you say, set an intention to speak more life about what you desire. And instead of what you see right now in the here and now, the reality of things right now, I'm learning, do not have to continue on. And so I'm learning to allow for that, right? Because I'm not going to be in denial about what I see. But at the same time, it doesn't have to continue. So I'm just speaking more of what I desire and encouraging that so that can show up.
Is that, I have to ask, is that kind of sort of like, just because this is where you are doesn't mean that that's where you have to be later? Like you can change, or that person can change?
Absolutely. Because the person that I was when I was younger and I married their father, right? I was 23 when I got married.
Okay, very young.
Yes, I had just graduated from college. The person that I was at 22, 23 is morphed into, so I'll say it's not the person I am, but it's not so much not the person I am. It's an addition to. I've added so many things to that young lady so
Right.
that I'm more improved. And so I believe that my children can too. And so I'm learning to resist judging. I'm learning to, if it's there, recognize what's happening in my upset sometimes, and ask myself to remember who I was at the time that they are now.
Oh, because they kind of around the same age of these like markers that you're thinking of?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a 27-year-old. And that's, my voice is gonna go in and out.
That's okay.
It's just scratchy right now. But I have a 27-year-old, a 25-year-old, and a 22-year-old. And so now, as I think about my life as a 22-year-old, how it was, I'm looking at him. And while I have compassion on it in a lot of ways, there is a balance. I still have to have boundaries, which kind of goes into what we're going to talk about today. And it's so beautiful to have this conversation because it's just so fitting. And I know it's going to benefit so many other people. But so that's what's been better for me.
Okay.
I am really in real time correcting my life, correcting myself, correcting my thinking, and being still. when
I think it's
when
powerful
I can do something,
though.
it's learning to be still.
But I think that there's power in that, and like there's power in being still, because being still brings about balance to me. And I think that this is kind of where I was on the plane. Like I had balance because I was like, I can't control any of this. I recognized that I didn't have to like it, because I definitely didn't like it. But I started to recognize the things that I don't like. And I was like, okay, am I really afraid or am I uncomfortable?
Right.
Because that's two different things.
Yes, it's a form of fear though.
Yes.
But at the same time, there are levels of it, right?
Right.
And so when you look on the spectrum of fear, that it encompasses so much. And so, yes, if you're uncomfortable, it's okay sometimes. Well, it's okay to be uncomfortable, period. It's just accepting that that's what's there, and being open to it, to acknowledge it. Because a lot of times we won't.
Right.
We won't accept. We don't even know what we're feeling.
I mean, really, honestly, you're talking 10, 15 years of really solid, like flying back and forth to places, or flying across the ocean, or flying across the world, and really recognizing like deep-seated fear of like, I don't know if I could do this today. But now I see like, okay, I don't like this particular thing about flying. Like, I don't like the whole airport experience. It gives me like all the like, ugh, it gives me all the gross, all of it. Ticketing, check-in, TSA, my God, absolutely not.
What's gross about all this stuff?
How it's all set up and how inefficient it all is. I don't like inefficiencies when I know that there are specific things that could be done. Or why are we still lying to people about not bringing the water on the plane?
Okay.
Why can't I have full size? Why do I have to have travel size stuff? Like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like I don't want to get to a place and have to rebuy stuff. Just let me take my full bottle of shampoo. You're being a jerk. So
I get
stuff
it.
like that.
Yeah.
It's the discomforts.
Yeah, I get it, because when you get past the checkpoint, you can buy a big ass bottle of water.
Right, but look at how much it costs.
I get it. And
you
so
get what I'm saying?
It's a money grab, of course.
It is. So there's like those little aggravations. Okay. I'm a little, got a little heebie-jeebies about being around lots of people, and always have. And now we're living in a time when like anybody could pull out anything they got and hurt anybody. So I'm just kind of like hyper aware of people and what they're doing. And instead of just like, I'm on a mission to get to my gate, sit down, plug in my phone, do all those things. And okay, being on a plane, Why are these seats so small? They've never been this small. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Right.
Just stuff that is like,
Right.
ugh, it just,
Right.
it's enough discomfort that you're just like, I don't know if it's a lot of discomfort or a lot of fear. Now, do I have fear of heights? Hell yes. Terrified. Do I have claustrophobia? Hell yes. I don't like being on elevators. So I sure as hell am not like, let's get in this metal tube and go 35,000 feet in the air. No, hell no. Mm-mm.
Right.
But I want to see the rest of the world. It is a necessity to be able to do that.
Right.
I have to get over it. Every time I go somewhere, I have to get over it. I don't live anywhere near the rest of my family. It would take days to get to them instead of hours.
Right.
They just have to fly.
Right.
Just have to get over
And
it.
look at how you allow in spite of. That is so beautiful. And see, that is the biggest thing, right? To recognize, in spite of all these things that I do not like, what I do desire is more important.
Right. And you know what else I was thinking about when you just said about you were young and you didn't necessarily change into another person, but you've added on. So we had a conversation about me figuring out what my principles are. And I said, I really think it's the 3 laws of physics that just kind of drive me a little bit. And that was another law, that nothing is gained or lost. It's just transformed. I think that's kind of where we both are, is that we're not losing anything. We're not necessarily gaining anything, but we are transforming the way we were into something else. We're just being molded differently.
Right. Right. How beautiful that is.
The laws of physics, I tell you. Always comes back to science. But anyway, we said a whole bunch. Let's talk about raising, because both of us are doing some stuff that has to do with raising right now.
Exactly. So I'm gonna jump into you real quick. Like when we thought about doing this podcast and the topic of raising came up, what came up for you?
How I was raised, what happens when your parents get older, and do you become responsible? Do they just, do you hire somebody else to be responsible? What do you do? Because I'm literally watching this and having these conversations with my mom right now. Like today we had a whole conversation about like, what do you want? If this happens, if that happens, like really going deep into like different scenarios.
Nice.
So that way we're not caught off guard. And so that way she gets what she wants. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was being hyper intuitive of like, I know what I would do, but that's not necessarily what she would want.
Yes.
So, but I think I asked her a few things that like she hadn't thought about. So she was like, oh, I gotta think about that, because my mom is very meticulous, has had her will, has had all of her paperwork, her who will do what's, all of, she's had that for years now, especially pre-COVID, with the death of like her only sister, things like that. It kind of like pushed her to make sure that like, all right, let's not go through that ever again.
Right.
And I'm really grateful for her like meeting that head on and being open to like tell her children and her in-laws and everybody, like, this is what we're doing. Don't y'all get y'all asses up here and start arguing about nothing, because I don't have time. So I think you have to, because we've seen other family members go through stuff where it's like they don't have anybody to depend on. And now you have like a whole kerfuffle of like nonsense because it wasn't prepared for.
Exactly.
And like you've said, like everybody's going to go through this. Want to, don't want to, the shit is going to happen.
It absolutely is.
So it's giving more peace. Because you have to have like this reckoning with yourself to know that this is going to happen to everybody regardless. It's a matter of like, do you want to make this hard?
Right.
Or do you want to have like this peaceful situation happen? Like, ain't shit you could do about it. How do you want to handle it? Do you want to make it stressful?
Right.
You gone, and now there's no will and nobody knows what to do. So now people start fighting.
Right.
Nobody wants to do that.
Exactly. And so I love how you decided to have this conversation with your mother. And as you think about raising, you think about maybe you tell me how she raised you, and how now it's coming full circle to where the principles that she taught you, that she shared with you, right? She instilled in you, are now coming full circle so that you can utilize them now with her, as she gets older, and you're using the wisdom that she provided for you.
And I'm gaining more wisdom in having these conversations now. Like, I'm literally still being raised, because before it would have been just this like crying situation of like, now we're thinking about death, and now I'm sad. And it's like, it doesn't have to be any of that. What it does have to be is like taken care of, because no one wants to be frazzled in that moment. It's already enough of like, now there's this gaping hole where this person was standing. What do you do? Well, if it's all spelled out, you're fine. Going through all of this when her sister died made me start this process of like thinking about what I want. So I have in my phone very specific notes, especially if I go before my husband, is like, this is exactly what I want. When we get to the hospital, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't like very, very detailed, because I was there and I watched how it all worked, and I watched how the people were. And I have detailed notes to the point I'm like, if you hear someone say this, or you see someone say that, or do that, get me out of there. Take me to a whole nother hospital.
That's huge.
Just stuff. Yeah.
And so what you're speaking of are situations that came into your experience that you learned. You learned from them, and you then said, this is what I'm going to do, or this is what I'm not going to do.
Yeah.
Right. Which to me is the definition of raising. It's about learning. You're teaching, right? So when you think about parents, and I think sometimes we have a maybe misguided view of what parenting is, right? And not to say that I have all the answers by any means, but I have self-proclaimed myself as a philosopher.
I'll give you that.
and this is my philosophy.
Go ahead and claim it.
I believe that parents were here or put here to teach children how to be adults, how to live in this world, how to be the best people that they can be, and develop skill sets, learn principles, and allow these principles to guide them. Now, are all parents doing that? No. Do parents even know that? Probably not. Some of them.
Okay, so that's the part I was going to go with, is like, they don't know what they don't know, though.
They don't.
So here's where my struggle is, because this is the conversation that we were having before about like, we can't teach this at school and we can't teach that at school because you're supposed to do it at home, but then they're not doing it at home. Right. So it's like, why aren't we? I guess because I always feel like there should have been some form of license to have a child. I really do feel like that. I know it sounds crazy, but
then we start to
legislate.
Because I get it and I understand, but then who gives the license?
I don't know, but there had to be some form of like, you are prepared on a base level to have this, to keep this small human alive, to educate this small human, and to maybe sustain this small human's life to a certain point. Like you just got to keep doing it. Like now it's probably 18 because then they can go off and do whatever. But like the fact that we just say, okay, you're 15, you're 12, you are 22, you are 35, you are 40, all these people are like, okay, have your first child and thanks, figure it out. Bye is wild to me. And you are not prepared at all. And I'm not saying like you don't have the money. I'm saying like you haven't gone to therapy to deal with your shit. And so now you're going to throw that on your child. No. I'm just saying there should be like some base requirements in order for you to fertilize this egg with this sperm. There has to be some base requirements. You need to, you don't even have to be stable in terms of like money. You have to be stable mentally though.
Right.
Because think about the people that damage their children because they hurt people. You haven't dealt with all the stuff that was done to you. And now you're expected to have this small human and like make it better than you.
I hear you.
Your level of better is like kind of not enough though. Like,
but who, right. But we're, and I really get where you're coming from, but we don't get to decide. Right.
And that's the rough part. Cause now we just got a whole bunch of hurt people walking around doing hurt stuff.
Well, yes, but then if you look at it from that perspective, right? But you also have a lot of people who raise their children in a way that's productive. And when I say productive, it's more like things that help, that edify, that better a situation as opposed to hinder it and harm it. Right.
Right.
And so, and I will also say too, and I'll kind of just kind of go back off of what you were just saying, as far as getting your mom's affairs in order, right? You have some people that don't even know how to do that, right?
Right.
Or they'll come up with a whole different way of doing that. So nobody does the thing the same way, right? And I just feel like what you know because you know it. And some people are going to go through life in a not knowing space and somehow they're going to make it.
Still wild to me.
It is because there are people I meet, like, in, over the years as I dated, I would ask questions like, how did you get here? Like, how did you make it without dying? Like,
how did you survive? Because you don't know how to like do anything.
And I call them gaps. There are gaps in our learning. There are gaps. Sometimes people skip the fifth grade, right? So they miss the whole fifth grade. And while they're saying, oh, this child is exceptionally smart, they have gaps now,
right,
in certain learnings, right? Or if something traumatic happens, right? And those kind of things happen out of our control. And so some parents can have the best intentions, and then there's a trauma that takes place.
Right.
That child could be missing for years mentally. And so then there are gaps in it too.
I don't think that I'm asking for anything like insane. I'm just saying like base stuff. Like know how to cook, like a balanced meal for yourself. Pay a bill. I don't know. I'm just saying like know how your body works. That should be basic.
Right. You would think.
I'm saying like we should set some standards. I think that like there's not enough standards of living or like quality of life standards.
Right.
And maybe these are ideas of grandeur, but I would think that if we had some of these standards, there'd be a little less suffering because those basics would be the things that everybody would meet. Everybody would have.
I get it. But then we would have cookie cut out people. And so based on somebody's perspective. Right. And this is what makes this world go round. Nothing is a thing. Like nothing is how it's supposed to be. It just is what it is. And when we set a standard for certain things and that standard is not met, like I'll give an example, and I've said this a few times, year after year, life goes on the way it goes on until it doesn't. Right. And so that was the standard until it wasn't. And then we lost our fucking mind because 2020 happened and things shut down. Right. And so we had whole young groups of people who did not graduate the way they graduated years before. And it was devastating to many. Yeah. But this is life. And that goes back to rearing. Sometimes if we, well, not sometimes, but if we teach our children that things don't happen the way we imagine they are supposed to all the time, then they're not having this expectation of a thing and then the letdown thereof.
Oh, right? Okay.
Right. That's a part of rearing too. But we don't know who our parents are going to be. We don't know how they're going to raise us. And there's so many people and so many types of people and so many cultures and so many backgrounds. Another thing that I think will be helpful to teach our children as we raise them, right, is to help them understand that we live in this world and we're going to one day leave this world. And let me teach you how to live in this world in a way that you can have the best benefit from living in this world.
Yeah, which is rough. But, I guess I wasn't thinking about it from that perspective. I was thinking about it as a closing gaps. There are so many gaps in quality of life for everyone. But if we had standards, we would close these gaps and there would be more equity is what I'm trying to get at. Not necessarily to create cookie cutter people, but it is to have less harm done to people because generation had no access to the standard quality of life. So that's all I'm saying is like, it just would make sense to me if I just was thinking like if there was some kind of standard, going back to like, you got a health class, you got economics class, you have reading, writing, arithmetic. I don't know, but like actual standards that everybody agreed on. That's like, once you get to this point, you've checked all these boxes, then you're ready to at least impart that basic knowledge on your small human. Go have a small human.
Right. I get it.
But
so then that's based on and I agree with you for the most part. Right. I agree with you, but it's about allowing it to be a choice, right? And not a forced thing. Like it's a standard if you choose this standard. Right. It's just like the Bible being there or the Quran or whatever people. I like the Bible now as I look at it now with new eyes. It's a book of wisdom. It's a book of principles. It's a book of things that are helpful and things that are not helpful.
See, and I hear you. I'm sorry. I'm not going to interrupt you about it.
No problem.
I hear you.
So, and as we look at the same thing that you're speaking of, you're giving them the keys to the kingdom. You're giving them tools to live by. And so that they could have a leg up in the world or an opportunity to have a better life. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So that you won't suffer because. Right. Yeah. And so, and you don't have to suffer. There are things that you can learn. There are things say, what your parents didn't teach you. Like to say, when people say there's no book of rearing or there's no book on being a parent.
These are, again, like it would have helped. It makes sense to me. But I guess what I'm hearing you say is like, if everybody got that book, everybody would do the same thing and everybody would have the same child. I think
maybe
there's
not
still room. Yeah. I think there's still room for like a little Lori Spice. A little Sylvia Spice. Like there's still your way of adding to it, but I'm just saying like basic stuff. Like hygiene seemed basic to me. But
I get it.
Not everybody learns it. Like it's not a thing that like everybody learns. Like this is exactly how you take a shower, how to get clean, how to wash your hair, how to do anything, why you should brush your teeth, like anything. Not everybody is taught that. I think a lot of things are assumed that they are taught. But you get to college and you have people who are like, I don't want to live with this person because they're nasty. Well, that person literally doesn't know anything.
Right.
But you don't know because it's not a standard thing.
Right. And so I like what you're saying, because then maybe from what we're speaking of now, maybe somebody will hear it and create a course. Maybe somebody will hear it and say, these are basic behaviors or basic ways of being that will help you if you're open to it. Right. Because it's, again, I'm not about forcing, I'm about offering. Right. And
okay.
It's right. And so I love that, because again, that helps fill in the gaps. Right. It helps fill in the gaps, and it helps you live a better life. I'm all about living a better life. How can we live a better life? How can we get the most of this experience while we're living here? Because ultimately, in our knowing, we don't know what the fuck is on the other side.
Exactly.
We don't know what's outside of this experience. All we know is what we know in the here and now.
Yeah.
And so in this here and now, how can we live the best life we possibly can? Right. And it could be stages of this thing, like, which goes back to raising, right? Because go ahead.
Do you find that with like your own children, when you raised your own children? I know you said like you're going through this moment of like realizing where they are and where they're going, or what am I trying to say? Do you feel like, I know you said you were having like a little bit of a struggle with your kids or a child. Do you feel like you're having that moment of like, there's like a disconnect because you see the possibility of what it can be differently now, that you maybe didn't raise them with that perspective?
Well, I think I did raise them with that perspective, but I'm finding out now there are layers to it, right? When a child is a baby, you're not teaching them math, right? You're teaching them how to walk and teaching them how to talk, and you're teaching them how to properly use the bathroom. And in that, as they're growing, you're teaching them how to bathe themselves properly.
Right.
Understanding a healthy touch is a non-healthy touch, and things like that, because the world we are living in, right?
I mean, you would hope, yes, but we know that like not everybody's doing that, but yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, to the best of my knowledge, and so I'm doing also what I've been taught, you see what I'm saying, or how I was raised. So then it's like, if there's some gaps in that, and if I also didn't agree to some of the things that my parents raised me knowing, if I say, oh, I didn't like that, so I'm not going to have my child taking a bath every night or whatever, then that creates maybe a gap, perhaps, right? But so say from 0 to 10, there's certain things you taught your children. Well, from 11 to 20, because there are so many developmental changes, we might have to cover the same thing again in a different way. And then when they're 20 to 25 or 25, 26 to 30, we teach it again, because what I'm learning now is that some of the things that we learned at 10 are still prevalent for a 20-year-old. It's still prevalent for a 30-year-old. Nothing is new under the sun.
What do you like? Give me an example. Like what came back around, basically, because everything is cyclical. It's all circles. So what came back around?
Like forms of communication, right? How you communicate with each other. And so when a child is in puberty, right, you still have keep your hands to yourself kind of thing, or don't take Johnny's toys, because now if you're taking Johnny's toys, it's always stealing, but you help them truly understand it. And so it comes in a different way. Right.
Okay.
And then, so now I have a son, he's in the process of moving out. Mm-hmm. He's the youngest. Right. And some things, as you're teaching them, again, if you don't agree, there is some level of resistance. So you can be,
and everybody has to agree.
Well, yeah. Right. Yeah. Because if you're teaching Johnny something and he doesn't necessarily agree as he's growing up, he's going to rebel against that at a certain time. Mm-hmm. You know, and you could want to give them as much information as you want to give them. It's up to them to receive that rearing and that nurturing, right? It's their choice. And they also get to decide if they believe in themselves like you believe in them.
Oh, shit, Lori.
So that's a whole other thing.
Hold on. Whoa. Okay.
Which goes
it's a
back,
choice?
Okay. It's all a choice. It's all a choice. So in rearing or raising a child, sometimes we can tell children, do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. And we don't help them understand the benefit of doing it as opposed to not doing it. Right.
Right.
Or sometimes we can be so transactional that there's no love there and we don't encourage or we don't support, or we might, and then you have parents who do, and some parents who overly support to the point where they become crippling to their children, become crippled, and then their development gets arrested. Right. And so there has to be some kind of balance. And again, depending on how you're raised or not, for an example, you have some people who are not raised, their parents didn't raise them, a grandmother raised them, the street raised them, the penal system raised them, something. And depending how that was, they're going to decide how they raise or not raise their children. Right. And then also there's another level or layer. We're not the only ones raising our children. Right. There are influences from friends, TV, everything. Everything raises, which goes back to teaching. All raising is teaching. That's all it is. What are you being taught? How are you being taught? Which goes back to what you're saying. Yeah. And you're saying, let's teach them some fundamentals that will help them be better people. And I love that. Yeah. It's just that, will they embrace it? Will they accept it at this time? Will it come later?
Oh, okay. Yeah. But I guess then that's where you're saying, like, sometimes you got to go back and teach the same thing, but just for a different stage. Like how are you reconciling with everything that's going on with this? Would you say it's a gap now between you and your son with him moving out? Is there a gap somewhere?
Yeah. Well, yes, it's a gap because he wasn't ready.
Oh.
And so I didn't spring this on him. I shared with my 3 children, 2020. I said, because in 2020, I was 49.
Okay.
And so I sat them down. It's like March, probably April, right after my birthday. And I said, I want to share with you what I see for myself moving forward. And I'm inviting you in the next 2 years to move out. So I invited them to this experience because I think words are important. I didn't say I'm forcing you. You got to leave and all of that. I invited them to and gave them time because I wanted to continue on with my life as Lori.
Not as their mom and Lori.
Not as their, right. Now, I will always be their mother, right? Because I will always be teaching them something. But I also recognize that I'm not the only teacher anymore. They have several teachers, including themselves.
Right.
The things that I've taught them, they have now become teachers, right? Just like you have become, in some ways, your mom's parent, right? Because at some point, we become the teachers. And so instead of, we can interchange parents with teachers. We're teaching. And so as I'm sharing with him, He's not ready to go even after 2.5 years now. He's not ready to go. And he said that, I'm not ready to go. But what do you do with that? Do you say, oh, son, because you're not ready, you can stay another however long when you're ready? When will you be ready? Will it be tomorrow? Will it be next year? Will it be 5 years? I am teaching him that I'm not going to put my life on hold for him. He can now start to be his own master. Because in rearing him and my other 2 daughters, I taught them that everything that they need is inside them, which is, I believe that's what parents do.
Right.
I hope that they help them understand that I am not the end all be all to your life. Because if something happens to me, do you fall apart? No, you better keep it fucking going, because I'm going to give you all the information that I know as you develop the knowledge to continue to learn it, to receive it. Now, at some point, if you don't decide to receive it, as much as I've encouraged you,
what else can you do? Okay, I see it. I get it now. I used to think that was like hella harsh. My husband's mother, she is just like, her life lessons that she imparted on this child and the way that he has taken them and ran with them. And I was always like, I'd have been cowering in a corner somewhere if she would have said that. I get it now, because what you just said is very similar to like the real life lesson. And so in me talking to I'm going to come back around to this, but in me talking to my mom and like understanding her preparations for her not being here, now I understand why his mom would always say, what would you do if I wasn't here? And it would be for anything. It would be for like, hey, can you help me with whatever? And I used to think like, why didn't she just help him? But now that you just said what you just said about your son, I see the strength and the character building in doing that.
Right.
Because then you got to figure out, okay, am I going to let myself starve? Am I going to let myself be homeless? Am I going to let myself do whatever? And I was like, I wouldn't do that to myself. So what the fuck? Like kind of
that's right
thought process. And I even see that in myself now, as far as like not ever wanting to like go back into a classroom and have like a 9-to-5 job for real, or like work in an office where I got to sit in meetings all day. Like I don't want to do that, but I'm also not about to be homeless. Exactly. I'm not going to let myself be in harm. Like I've already like lived that life. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Like I already like struggled in college. I was already like the broke college student who couldn't pay their rent and like had their house padlocked and everything. I've already done that. So it was like, I know how that feels. Let's not do that again. Do all the shit so that way you're not struck
from it.
Yes.
Yes. And that is the thing. So yes, they're going to go through hardship. And for me to allow him to stay here, although he's not ready, gives him a false reality. Yes. Because life does not teach us to be ready. Right. It teaches us to live in it, and we can do it, and he can make it because he's brilliant. And that's what I tell him. You're an intelligent being. You're brilliant in yourself. You know how to survive. You also know how to thrive. You have to believe it. And I can't make you believe it. I can let you know what my life has been. And I'll give an analogy. There was a bird's nest right outside my door. I had some bushes years ago. And I saw these birds develop. And it was so beautiful to watch them come out of the egg and and then be chirping with the mouths open, and the mom comes and drops the worms and all of that. But then there comes a time when she it's time for them to fly. And guess what? If these little motherfuckers don't know how to fly, please understand that mama's going to keep going.
Yeah, I've seen that. I don't know what kind of bird it was. It's a bird that like they have certain baby birds, and like the weakest one, I've literally watched the bird. It's a video. Watch the bird, pick that bird up and like throw it out of the nest and be like, hope you make it, but bye. Like you can't stay. Right. And it looks harsh, but it's like, that shit is life.
Because every person, everything that comes into this world has within them to live or die.
Shit.
They have it within them.
Damn.
I didn't make that.
Right. That's
Somehow
a
Somehow I'm pushing to live. How is that? And I can't put it within him to make it. He has to want to. He has to desire to, and he has to believe in himself enough. And when we tap into that belief system, things start to change. Just like you said, intentions. You see how you set intentions for flying? That intention was more powerful than your fear.
Yeah.
And when you set an intention that these things will happen, you fucking make them happen.
Yeah.
Come hell or high water, you make it happen.
How do you convince somebody? Well, shit, never mind. I answered my own question. I can't make you believe anything like you just said. Because if you, okay, here's the wild thing to me about this whole situation. I don't know you at home. You know what I'm saying? But I know you.
Right.
So I know that you are an encouraging, positive, strength building person. That's who I know you as.
Right.
I cannot imagine having a parent who has that mindset and not believing it. Because that's what it sounds like. It's like he don't see what you see.
Right. And that's okay because he will, because in my mind, I believe it. And I'm a walk and act as though I don't feel sorry for him because I don't. I believe in him. And so even though he pulls his shenanigans about how he doesn't think he can make it and whatever, and he's down on himself, okay, today, and that's what I was sharing with you, what's been better for me, is because I'm able to now, I'm learning, because I'm not, I know that I have a journey ahead of me. But I believe in this and in period. I'm just saying, as far as coming into a knowledge of something that you're going to practice as opposed to what you've been doing. Right. And so as I see how he's showing up now, I'm not choosing to buy into it to where I become crippled in thinking that he's not going to make it based on how he's showing up now. I'm listening to him and I'm also understanding. And at the same time, I'm saying, sir, I know greatness is inside of you and this too shall pass. And so he can take it now or he doesn't. And he can languish, but you get to choose. And that's the beauty of life. And as we teach our children, because you can lead someone to water, you can't make them drink.
Right.
And so how when people say, I'm going to make my child do this, I'm going to make my child do that, you can't make anybody do anything. It's all their choice every single time. Right.
And you know what else? I think the hardest thing is knowing what is better for someone else and them not believing, agreeing, trying, accepting, thinking, not doing anything. It will drive you fucking crazy if you know the answer and the other person doesn't believe you. Oh my God. You have to let it go. This is me.
That's beautiful. That would be beautiful to let it go because it doesn't have to drive you crazy.
Yes. That's how I felt for so long.
Right. And when the knowledge came, what difference did it make?
It's just come. So because I spent years being like, I'm the baby, but if I've been told that my role is the responsible one, I've gone out and sought to be the responsible one and the knowledge and gain all this experience and do all these things and come back and teach because now you're the teacher. But then no one believes you. No one listens to you. Yeah, kid, whatever. Or you're still there. You could grow all you want, but if somebody has different color glasses on than you, they are still going to see you as the child, the little one, the youngest one. We know how you are. That's how you used to be. That's how you always are. So all the knowledge that you have means shit to the people who never wanted to see you. So now I'm coming back to, there's my strings. I am no longer going to fill this role for any of these people anymore, because I have the answers. I know them to be fact. If you don't want to receive them, I can no longer give out the energy of trying to reiterate, you've been a teacher, so you know, you have to teach to the child, right? And every kid is completely different. So now here's how you get a differentiated instruction. Okay, this kid is visual, this kid is audible, this kid is tactile, this kid is, all these different things. These two need to be in pairs. These four work together. You got all these things that you have to teach to all these different people. It's just a juggling thing, right? I'm not doing that anymore. I said what I said. This is a specific answer. You can take it or you can leave it. And also, I'm not offering up anything else unless I am asked.
Look at you. That sounds like zero fucks given.
Zero. And people haven't, I have to realize also, people haven't been asking me. Which means they never wanted my answers in the first place. So why the fuck am I trying to provide and insert myself into these answers? Even though I know it would be helpful. Even though I know you wouldn't have to struggle, you wouldn't have to think, you wouldn't have to do anything. It would be plug and play for you. But you didn't ask me. So why the fuck do I care? I don't, I can't.
Well, it's because of a knowledge that you had before that no longer serves you.
Exactly. Oh my God. And this goes back to episode 13. I can't carry anybody else's burden for them.
Right.
I can't do that. If your burden is something that, again, like I have the answer, you could put your burden down because there's the answer. And you just want to complain about it, or you just want to have something to say about it. I got nothing.
Right. Exactly.
I got nothing.
Which goes back to the bird not believing in themselves, and they become a burden to the flock. Right. And so, and it would seem like, oh my God, you're such a cruel mother that you just let them suffer. You can think whatever the hell you want to think about me, and that is quite all right. But I find that life is going to be okay. And I know my son's going to be okay. And my other two daughters are going to be okay. Even if they're not okay, they're going to be okay. And that's what I've resolved myself to understanding. One thing
also, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'll remember. Go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
Is it also, I feel like for as many people who are like, oh, that's harsh or whatever, there's probably some people who are like, yeah, that's exactly how you do that. Because for as many people who are like, oh, you're being harsh, wouldn't they just be enablers? Versus the people who are like, yeah, no, you push them out because we got to figure out something, not necessarily to just have your own life, but also because like at some point they also have to have their own life.
So that's the reasoning behind the invitation to leave, because I'm ready to live my life. I'm ready to get my freak on in any room I want to.
Okay.
Come
on, Stella.
You see, like, or to do, or to be, or to, I don't want to have to keep telling you to do the same thing over and over, because now you become my child as a grown adult. No, you don't have to be an adult child. You can have your own standards.
Yeah.
Right. I have a set of rules on how I live my life. Tim now has his own rules on how he wants to live his life. They might not fit with how I live right now. We don't have to clash. In fact, the best thing for us not necessarily to clash, get the fuck out. I want to be your ally. I want to be able to, you can hit me up. I can provide you this with, even if you need a little money here and there, but you need your own now.
Right.
And so I'm inviting you to get your own, because I believe that you can have your own. And so really and truly, if I believe that, even if you don't believe it, it's time.
Yeah.
And at some point, I hope you will be ready, but I'm not going to be responsible for your shelter anymore, because I believe you have the know-how to, at least if nothing else, take care of your shelter. And then if there's some other things that are by the wayside, it's not over. I'm not done being your mom until I die.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that I can share with you that you can also add, right? So again, as I was a 22-year-old, I started adding, and my mom was not my only influencer. My dad was not my only influencer. Life became my influence. School became my influence. Other friends. So, and they always been there. And so that's the thing. And so I'm not going to allow myself also to be manipulated either, because I'm not a fool. And so sometimes when you talk about the enabler, there's no enabler without the entitled.
Oh, shit.
They work hand in hand.
Oh, yeah.
So while he feels entitled, like I'm supposed to be there, if I don't agree to it, then that stops. It has to. Now he might go seek a sympathizer or an enabler, right? Because there are those in life. My hope is that you ask yourself, how is this working for you? Right. Is this making your life better, or is it making your life worse?
You know what else this has done? And I think you said it a while ago. This is really teaching me or raising me to understand that that parents are people too.
That's, girl, you better please say it again. Say it again.
Yeah. You've already, I'm just repeating a Loriism. You have said it, and I it's laser focused now, that parents are people too.
That's exactly right.
And I think this is why I see you see those like moms who's like their whole life is their child, and then their child is like gone, or their child grows up and goes to elementary school and they're not there every day, and they like don't know what to do with themselves. I get it. I get it.
It can
or the people that are like, right. Yes. I was about to say, yeah. Yeah. Or you see the people who are like, can't wait for their kid to go to school because they're like, I want my life back. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, because it's fun. It's beautiful.
Okay.
What,
parenting?
It's beautiful.
That shit don't sound fun to me.
Oh my God. It's the best thing. So, and going back to when you spoke about the basics and we were talking about the gaps. My children help fill in the gaps, because as I had children, my oldest daughter, I call her mama a lot of times, because whereas some things that my mom didn't teach me, or I didn't get, or she didn't get from her mom, right? Tori taught me.
Oh.
She helped me learn how to grow the fuck up. Children will raise you in a lot of ways. Even from a baby, they'll teach you how to regulate your tone.
Okay.
You know, if you're losing your voice, if you lose control, if you're paying attention. I never forget, Tori was 18 months old, and she was just showing out. Every time I got on the phone, she was just showing out. And such a blessing. One of the elders at my church, I was talking to him about her, and he schooled me. He helped me understand that I don't ever have to raise my voice with my children. Keep my voice the same, because you lose control when you raise your voice. And he said, and just be direct and let her know exactly what you want and what you expect for her to do. It's basically setting an intention. And my whole body language shifted. I didn't even realize it. I noticed it in her. She shifted. She was acting out, and I wasn't even saying anything. I was just on the phone. And then she started to straighten up, and then when I got off the phone, I said, young lady, you sit yourself down. And she did it, blew me away, because confidence came into my voice.
Oh, okay.
There was a self-determination that came over me. And I knew then what I needed to do with her that I was not doing before. I was allowing her to run the show.
As I was about to say, almost like she didn't take you seriously when you were yelling.
Exactly.
And she knew you weren't playing when you didn't raise your voice.
Yes. And it shifted. The whole thing shifted. And I love that. So yes, children will teach you so much.
I get that now. Like Like I never got a whooping. And it is
It's
astounding
you.
to people that I never did. I didn't say I never did anything wrong. My parents were scary as shit to me. My dad was a drill sergeant.
Okay.
Okay, you see Major Payne?
Mm-hmm.
That outfit, the hat, the boots, all that. Imagine that
Wow.
walking into your house when you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. You are not about to like get out of line.
Yes, it just commands a thing. Right.
Yeah. And my mom, like I said before, my mom could talk you in and talk you out of a lot of shit. But I appreciate it now. I always have. I mean, yeah. I understood my parents differently than my siblings understood my parents.
Right.
I took lessons from them that they didn't make sense before, but as I got older, I was like, oh, because I would see kids because I was teaching, and I would see kids at their best and I would see kids at their worst. And then I would see their parents and I'd be like, okay, I get it.
Right.
I get it. Like it all made sense. Like my parents, I don't know what age I was. I don't know what age my siblings were, but I remember them being like, don't embarrass us and don't get us put out of base housing. I spent my whole life running and doing and running and doing to make my parents not be embarrassed, to make sure that I didn't get a toe out of line. They didn't have to be proud, but I also didn't have to make them ashamed.
Right.
Which, though, because everything is black and white with me, or really was black and white with me, I also put that burden on myself of now I'm ashamed of myself because I didn't do whatever. And it would be simple things. Like I remember one time, I don't know if I told you, but I was like I was an athlete and went to like Junior Olympics, World Series, did all these things. Amazing. And I walked away from all that after my dad died.
Oh.
But I remember when I was in high school, I got a C on something and I benched myself because I wasn't meeting my own standards.
Look at that.
I didn't fail.
Right.
It just wasn't enough. But I kept putting that pressure on myself until one day I just combusted.
Now you said I wasn't enough. What does that mean?
I think this is an inner mean girl thing of being a perfectionist, of always getting everything right, of always having everything in order, of I think I said this before, of like there's not a plethora of resources, so there's no do-overs. You get it right the first time or it's going to be hell to pay.
And how did you know that?
I think it's just a thing that I just knew. It wasn't like it really expressed or talked about or you know, I knew we weren't rich.
Was it inferred? Because that goes back to rearing. You get what I'm saying? Like when you said don't embarrass me or don't get us put out of housing and things like that. And so what it's saying is, instead of, if they were to shift the don't, right, be on your P's and Q's,
or
put
my
your
husband,
best foot forward.
My mother-in-law's version is make your mama proud. That sounds so different to me, but it's the same freaking lesson.
It is the same, right? And it's still this air of perfection, which leaves no room for missteps. And life needs to allow missteps, because if we don't allow for the misstep, if we don't do the thing that's expected of us, we call ourselves failures.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit, because there is no failure in life. There is no failure and there is no failure. There's either learning or earning, if you will.
Ooh.
Right? We either learn or we earn, and earning is the benefit of the doing.
Yeah.
We're going to benefit from the doing as it helps us blossom into the person that we are. But if by chance we somehow don't meet that mark, What did we learn?
Yeah. Earning is getting it right the first time, or achieving it the first time. Learning is you might have to come back tomorrow.
And that's okay. And there's no shame in it.
It's
and
okay
again,
now. I didn't understand it before, and I get it now.
Beautiful. How did you get it?
I had to get it.
How? How did you have to?
Oh, because it was a path to destruction. I mean, do we need to go back to episode 1?
No. We don't have to go to extras.
But this is what I'm saying is like, that was the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
That was the burden. The burden was there of like, you still haven't gotten it right the first time. Mm-hmm. But the problem that I always had was like, you don't know what's the first time, because you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know what success was. I didn't know what the earning was. It was just keep doing the thing, keep being allowed to do the thing, keep making the money, don't get fired, don't embarrass anybody, don't do anything that puts a spotlight on you in a negative way, all those things. And I just never gave myself any type of space to fail, to learn.
Right. Well,
never.
Yes. Right. And so now is here. And so reason why I'm saying, how did you come into this knowledge, or how did you find out? Because it could have come from, you could have heard it on TV. You could have seen it in a book. It could have just fell out the sky.
This is, I would say that these are things that fell out of the sky, but these are also conversations over 20 years with my person, of my person being like, it's fine. C's get degrees. It's
Look
fine.
At that. I love that term.
I had 20 years of him imparting his rearing on me.
Who is that? He, your father?
No, my husband.
Oh, your husband. Okay. Okay.
I had 20 years of him being like, oh yeah, it's fine. You just do whatever. And I'd be like, you can't just do whatever. Like, that's not the path that you go. And he'd be like, it's fine. Really? Okay, I got one for you, Lori. I would say, I've gained all this weight. I don't go to the gym anymore. I don't do these things. Just all these things about being unhappy with my body. And he would be like, do you have a face? You're fine then. His whole basic standard is that it's not funny, but it is. Do you remember the lady who was messing with the monkey, and the monkey like mauled her face off, and she had the world's first face transplant? He was like,
it's vaguely.
He was like, if you're at that point, then like maybe you're not okay. But he was like, until you're at like that point, you're fine.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And it was just like, I used to think like, well, his standard is very low, because if he thinks that like I'm okay, like this can't be good. I didn't realize that he was like, you just have to be okay with yourself. That's what's beautiful.
That's right. That is the thing, which goes back to so many things about so I'm about re-rearing. I'm about reteaching, re-raising, because that old way has really been riddled with a lot of faulty ways of teaching.
Yeah.
Especially this way that we look at our bodies, the way we look at beauty and what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying that there's so many different ways to raise somebody, that we can offer this information to them, and they can choose and they cannot choose, and that's fine. But how we standardize certain things is based on what? Whose standard are we basing this on?
Right.
Is it based on what's internally within you? And are we even taught to say, what do you want, Johnny? What do you want, Sarissa? I understand that in context, sometimes we can't give them a choice because we're eating grits for breakfast. Right. So that's what's for dinner.
Yeah.
But we could still say, Johnny, what do you want? Do you want to eat or go to bed hungry? So that's still going to be their choice. And I think children, it's beautiful to give them their choice inside of a structure of things, because when they have a choice, they learn growing up that I chose to do this instead of somebody made me, because nobody makes you do anything. You make me sick, or he made me mad. Nobody made you do a damn thing. You chose to be mad based on the circumstances because you ain't like it. It's not something you would do. I get that.
Right.
But the point is, we have to re-raise, reteach, help people rethink so they can be the best people they can be while they're living on this planet.
Okay, I got to add a Loriism. Without judgment.
Exactly.
I say without judgment is we have to not judge the rearing that we had before, because that rearing was based on what those people knew how to do with the knowledge that they had in the first place. And that is where I am with all of my previous rearing. I'm going into my new rearing, not even necessarily worrying about my previous rearing.
Right.
My new rearing is just to help me transform.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And I will say this, we get mad sometimes because our parents didn't teach us things, but parents do the best they can. I'll say that. I'll give the benefit of the doubt and say parents do the best they can with what they have.
Yeah.
And so we add to it. And
Without
so that's
judgment.
why I'm saying I'm adding to what I've learned those 22 years and where I am as a 51-year-old woman.
Yeah. Okay. Last. I'm going to add without judgment, and I'm also going to add grateful. Be grateful for all the lessons that you didn't get, however you got them. If they were bits and pieces, if they were your parents worked nights and they only gave you whatever they had at that point, or you only saw them twice a week, whatever. If you got something from someone else that you are still using today, or that was helpful at some point, we just got to be grateful.
Be grateful.
Yep.
We don't have to be, but be grateful because it will help you.
Yep.
And you don't have to be, but guess what it's going to do? Like, how's it going to help if you're not?
Right.
Oh, man, I would love to do a part 2 on this because there's so much that we have not said. But the biggest thing is there's no supposed to's in this world. We come in this world how we come in here, and everything that happens to us happens for us individually. Nothing that happens to us is by happenstance.
Because there's nothing new under the sun.
Absolutely.
All right. That was a good one. I appreciate you as much as possible. And everybody that is listening, thank you. Thank you for joining this little community that we are building. We cannot wait to grow even more. All right.
Yes. That's it for this week's show. I'm Lori Scott.
And I'm Sylvia Johnson. And you've been listening to What's Been Better.
A big thank you to Lagon Music Inc. for providing our music. This show is edited and produced by us with a little help from our family and friends. We love you all.
We want to hear what's been better for you this week. So send us a voice message or an email to questions@whatsbeenbetter.com. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at What's Been Better Podcast.
Thanks for listening.